The warning lights on the bridge of the Defiance flashed red as Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive alien ship hanging in space before them. The vessel was 3 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. Its dark metal surface, covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. Jake had been patrolling the outer edge of the solar system when his sensors picked up the unknown contact. Now he wished he had stayed home. "Sir, they're sending us a message," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant from her position at the communications station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and none of them knew what to expect. "Put it through," Jake ordered, settling back in his command chair. The main screen flickered and changed, showing the image of a creature that made several of his crew members gasp. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Its head was elongated, and where human eyes would be, there were 3 dark orbs that seemed to look right through the camera. "I am Lord Kethivor of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the creature said, its voice translated by their computers into perfect English. "You will identify yourselves and explain your presence in this system." Jake stood up slowly, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. This is our home system. The question is, what are you doing here?" The alien's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes that Jake didn't like. "Your home system? How amusing. I represent an empire that spans 300 star systems and countless worlds. We have been watching your species for some time now, and we have come to deliver an important message." "We're listening," Jake replied, though every instinct told him he wouldn't like what came next. Lord Kethfor leaned forward slightly. "Your species has developed space travel and nuclear weapons. This makes you a potential threat to galactic peace. Therefore, by order of Emperor Nax, then, ruler of all civilized space, humanity must surrender control of your homeworld and accept status as a vassal species of the Empire." The bridge fell completely silent. Jake felt his blood run cold, but he kept his voice level. "And if we refuse?" "Then your species will be eliminated," the alien said with the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. "You have 72 hours to deliver your answer. We suggest you choose wisely. No species has ever survived defying the Empire." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Jake stared at the blank screen for a long moment, before turning to his communications officer. "Get me Admiral Steve Parker, Priority 1. Within minutes, the grizzled face of Earth's top military commander appeared on screen. Admiral Parker had fought in 3 different wars and had scars to prove it, but even he looked shaken when Jake finished his report. 300 star systems, Parker muttered, running a hand through his gray hair. "Jake, how many ships do you see out there?" "Just the one, sir, but our long-range sensors are picking up more contacts at the edge of the system. Could be a whole fleet hiding out there." Parker was quiet for a moment, then his expression hardened. "Send me everything you've got on these Zephyrians. I need to brief the President and the Defense Council immediately." 6 hours later, Jake found himself in Earth's most secure military facility, deep underground beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with humanity's top military leaders, scientists, and politicians, all arguing about what to do next. "We have to negotiate," insisted Secretary of State Margaret Collins. "If they really control 300 systems, we can't possibly fight them." "Negotiate what?" snapped General Roy Adams, slamming his fist on the table. "They're demanding complete surrender. There's nothing to negotiate." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien technology, cleared her throat. "I've been analyzing the transmission data from their ship. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but it's also different. They seem to rely heavily on energy weapons and shields. Their ship design suggests they fight battles in open space, following some kind of formal combat doctrine." "What are you getting at, Doctor?" Admiral Parker asked. "I think they've never fought a species like us," Amy said slowly. "Every species they've conquered has probably been peaceful, civilized. They expect formal battles with rules and honor codes. They've never dealt with predators." General Adams leaned forward. "Explain." Amy pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's evolutionary tree. "Look at our world, General. We evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill everything else. Humans survived because we became the most dangerous predators on the planet. We learned to hunt in packs, to use tools, to adapt and overcome. These Zephyrians come from a galaxy where species apparently surrender rather than fight. So what do you recommend? Admiral Parker asked. Before Amy could answer, Jake spoke up. We tell them no. The room erupted in arguments, but Admiral Parker held up his hand for silence. Explain, Captain. Jake stood up, thinking of his wife and 2 kids back home on Earth. They said no species has ever survived defying the Empire. That tells me they've never actually had to fight a real war. They show up, make threats, and species surrender. But humans don't work that way. We've spent our entire history fighting wars against impossible odds and winning. This isn't some historical battle, Morrison, Senator Williams protested. These aliens have weapons that can destroy planets. Maybe, Jake replied. But they also made a mistake. They gave us 72 hours to prepare. If they were really confident in their power, they would have attacked immediately. The fact that they're trying to intimidate us first means they prefer easy victories. Admiral Parker studied Jake's face for a long moment, then turned to General Adams. Roy, how quickly can we implement Protocol Wildfire? Protocol Wildfire was Earth's most classified military plan, designed for fighting an enemy with superior technology. Instead of meeting such a force in traditional battle, it called for guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run tactics, and the kind of vicious, unpredictable fighting that had made humans the apex predators of Earth. 48 hours to full deployment, Adams replied grimly. Parker nodded slowly. Then we have our answer. He activated the communication system that would broadcast across all of Earth's colonies and military installations. This is Admiral Steve Parker, Commander of Earth Defense Forces. We have received an ultimatum from an alien empire demanding our surrender. Our response is simple. He paused, looking around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Our warning is clear. Flee our system now or discover why predators evolved on our world. The transmission ended, and Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In 72 hours, humanity would either be free or extinct. But looking at the determined faces around him, he realized the Zephyrians had made a critical error. They had threatened the one species in the galaxy that had learned to turn desperation into strength, fear into fury, and survival into an art form. The war was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn why humans had climbed to the top of the food chain, on the most dangerous planet they had ever encountered. Emperor Nax then sat on his crystal throne in the heart of the Imperial Palace, his forearms folded in anger. The massive chamber stretched out before him, its walls lined with the conquered banners of 300 worlds. Never in 10,000 years had any species dared to refuse the Empire's generous offer of surrender. They said what? The Emperor hissed, his voice echoing through the throne room. Lord Kethavor knelt before his master, trembling slightly. They told us to flee, Your Imperial Majesty. The humans actually warned us to leave their system or face the consequences. A sound filled the chamber that had not been heard in centuries, the Emperor's laughter. It was not a pleasant sound. Consequences. From primitive mammals who have barely learned to leave their own planet? He stood up, his tall frame casting a shadow over the cowering ambassador. How many ships do they have? Our scouts report. Perhaps 50 vessels, Your Majesty. Small ones, mostly. Nothing larger than a heavy cruiser by our standards. Emperor Nax then walked to the great window that looked out over his capital city. Millions of Zephyrians lived and worked in the gleaming towers below, all of them safe under the protection of the mightiest military force the galaxy had ever known. No enemy had ever reached this world. No enemy had ever tried. Summon fleet. Commander Zelgoth, the Emperor commanded. It seems these humans need to learn why the Empire has never lost a war. 3 hours later, Fleet Commander Zelgoth stood at attention in the Emperor's war room. The Zephyrian military leader was shorter than most of his species, but twice as broad, with scars from a dozen campaigns marking his pale blue skin. He had conquered 47 worlds for the Empire, and had never met a species that could stand against Zephyrian technology and tactics. "You want me to deploy the 47th Conquest Armada against 50 human ships?" Zelgoth asked, his tone respectful but puzzled. "Your Majesty, that seems like using a battleship to kill a fish." "These humans have insulted the Empire," Emperor Nax then replied coldly. "They must be made an example for any other species that might consider defiance. Take 200 ships and show the galaxy what happens to those who refuse our mercy." Zelgoth bowed low. "It will be done, Your Majesty. How long shall I give them to surrender once they see our fleet?" "No surrender," the Emperor said with finality. "Destroy them all. Let their homeworld burn as a warning to others." Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, Dr. Amy Rodriguez worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the Mars Research Station. Around her, teams of scientists studied every piece of data they had gathered from the brief encounter with the Zephyrian ship. What they were discovering both amazed and terrified them. "The power output from their vessel is incredible," Amy told her assistant Dr. Carlos Martinez as they analyzed the energy readings. "Their main weapon could probably crack a moon in half." "Then how are we supposed to fight them?" Carlos asked, looking up from his computer screen where alien symbols scrolled past in endless streams. "That's the interesting part," Amy replied, pointing to a series of graphs on the wall. "Look at these energy patterns. Their weapons are designed for long-range combat between large ships in open space. They're built for formal battles where both sides line up and exchange fire until one side wins." Carlos frowned. "That sounds like naval warfare from hundreds of years ago on Earth." "Exactly," Amy said, excitement creeping into her voice. "Carlos, I think these aliens have never fought a real war. They've been so successful that they've forgotten how to adapt. Their technology is advanced, but it's also predictable." On the other side of the solar system, Captain Ben Hughes guided his small stealth ship, the Ranger, through the asteroid belt beyond Neptune. His mission was simple but dangerous. Get close enough to the incoming alien fleet to gather intelligence without being detected. The Ranger was humanity's most advanced scout ship, built using experimental technology that made it nearly invisible to most sensors. Ben had volunteered for this mission knowing he might not come back, but Earth needed to know what they were facing. "Contact," whispered his sensor operator, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "Multiple ships bearing 27 Mark III. Ben, you need to see this." Ben moved to the sensor station and felt his blood turn to ice. Spread across his screen were 200 red dots, each one representing a Zephyrian warship. The smallest of them was twice the size of Earth's largest battleship. The biggest looked like floating cities bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Ben ordered, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. "Priority Alpha." Within minutes, General Roy Adams appeared on Ben's communication screen. The general's face was grim, as if he already knew what Ben was going to tell him. "Report, Captain," Adams said simply. "Sir, they're bringing everything." "They have. 200 ships, maybe more. The flagship alone could probably take on our entire fleet and win." Adams was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Understood. Get back here, Ben. We're going to need every ship we have." "General," Ben said before Adams could end the transmission, "there's something else. I've been watching their formation as they move through space. They're flying in perfect order like a parade. No scouts out front, no ships covering their flanks. They're not expecting any resistance at all." A thin smile crossed Adams's face. "Noted, Captain. Come home." Back on Earth, in the underground command center, Admiral Steve Parker studied the tactical displays showing the approaching alien fleet. Around him, humanity's best military minds worked on preparations for a battle they had little hope of winning through conventional means. "Protocol Wildfire is almost ready," General Adams reported. "We've positioned supply caches throughout the system, modified our ships for hit-and-run tactics, and armed every civilian vessel that can carry a weapon." "What about evacuation?" asked Secretary Collins. "Shouldn't we be getting people off Earth? Where would they go?" Admiral Parker replied. If we lose here, the aliens will hunt down every human in the galaxy. This is our only chance to show them that we're not easy prey. Dr. Amy Rodriguez entered the command center carrying a tablet full of data. Admiral, I think I've found something important. The Zephyrian ships are incredibly powerful, but they have a weakness. Tell me, Parker said immediately. Their technology is designed for fighting other civilized species, Amy explained. Everything about their ships assumes they're enemies. We'll follow the same rules they do. Long-range energy weapons, heavy shields, formal battle formations. They've never had to deal with someone who fights dirty. General Adams leaned forward. What kind of dirty fighting are you thinking about, Doctor? Amy pulled up a hologram showing the alien ship designs. Look at these vessels. Massive weapons, incredible defenses, but almost no-point defense systems. They're not expecting small, fast attacks from multiple directions. They're certainly not expecting suicide attacks or booby traps. You're talking about guerrilla warfare. In space, Admiral Parker said slowly. Exactly, Amy replied. These aliens have been so successful for so long that they've forgotten how to fight a desperate enemy. They expect surrender or formal battle. They're not ready for humans who will use every dirty trick in the book to survive. Parker turned to General Adams. How long until they reach Earth? 18 hours, sir. Parker nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would reach every human ship, station, and colony in the solar system. This is Admiral Parker. In 18 hours, we face an enemy that has conquered 300 worlds. They expect us to line up our ships and die like civilized beings. Instead, we're going to show them why human beings survived on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. He paused, looking around at the determined faces in the command center. We're not going to fight their kind of war. We're going to fight our kind of war. Hit and run, ambush and trap. Every dirty trick our species has learned in 10,000 years of warfare. They want to see what happens when predators are cornered. The transmission ended, and across the solar system, humanity prepared for the first battle of a war that would change the galaxy forever. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that some prey fights back. Fleet Commander Zelgoth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory, watching the blue planet grow larger on his main screen. Around him, 200 Zephyrian warships moved in perfect formation through Earth's solar system. It was a sight that had brought terror to countless worlds across the galaxy. Any sign of the human fleet? Zelgoth asked his tactical officer. Negative, Commander. Our sensors show their ships scattered throughout the system. Some are hiding behind moons, others in asteroid fields. They appear to be running scared. Zelgoth nodded with satisfaction. It was always the same. When faced with the might of the Imperial fleet, primitive species either surrendered immediately or scattered like frightened animals. The humans had chosen to run, which meant this would be over quickly. Signal the fleet, he commanded. Begin standard sweep formation. We'll hunt them down one by one. What Zelgoth didn't know was that Colonel Pete Davis was watching his every move from inside a hollowed-out asteroid just 3 kilometers away. Pete and his team had been waiting in their modified mining ship for 6 hours, barely breathing as the massive alien fleet passed by. There, Pete whispered to his crew, pointing at a Zephyrian destroyer that had separated from the main group to investigate a false energy reading. That's our target. The mining ship Rocky Mountain had been Pete's idea. Take a civilian vessel that the aliens would ignore, pack it full of nuclear explosives, and use it like a guided missile. It wasn't honorable warfare, but Pete didn't care about honor. He cared about keeping his family alive. Remember, Pete told his 5-man crew, we get one shot at this. Once we're detected, we have maybe 30 seconds before they blow us apart. The Rocky Mountain drifted out of the asteroid field looking like just another piece of space junk. The Zephyrian destroyer, the Silver Talon, was 3 times larger and armed with weapons that could destroy a city. But it wasn't expecting an attack from what looked like a garbage scow. They're scanning us, reported Pete's sensor operator, Sergeant Mike Torres. Wait, they're dismissing us as debris. We're not even registering as a threat. Pete smiled grimly. That was exactly what he had hoped for. The aliens were so confident in their superiority that they couldn't imagine a species using civilian ships as weapons. It was beneath their dignity to consider such tactics. Full power to engines, Pete ordered. All hands, prepare for impact. The Rocky Mountain suddenly accelerated toward the Silver Talon at maximum speed. The Zephyrian crew had just enough time to realize what was happening before Pete's ship slammed into their hull and detonated. The explosion vaporized both vessels in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen across half the solar system. On the bridge of the Eternal Victory, Zelgoth stared in shock at the empty space where the Silver Talon had been moments before. "What happened?" he demanded. "The human vessel. It deliberately collided with our ship," his tactical officer replied, his voice filled with disbelief. "Commander, they destroyed themselves to take out one of our destroyers." Zelgoth felt a chill run through him. In 300 years of imperial expansion, no species had ever used suicide attacks. It was considered barbaric, uncivilized. The very thought of deliberately destroying one's own ship was alien to Zephyrian thinking. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Maintain distance from any human vessels. Treat them all as potential threats." But the humans were just getting started. Throughout the solar system, modified civilian ships began emerging from hiding places among the asteroids and moons. Garbage haulers, mining vessels, even luxury yachts had been converted into weapons of war. Commander Nina Bell sat in the communications center of the space station Liberty, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards as she worked to crack the alien computer systems. Nina had been Earth's top computer expert before the war started, and now she was humanity's secret weapon in the digital battlefield. "I'm in," she announced to her team. "The Zephyrian command network is incredibly advanced, but they've never bothered with basic security. Why would they? No one has ever dared to hack into Imperial systems before." Nina's screens filled with alien text and tactical displays showing the positions of the entire Zephyrian fleet. But more importantly, she had access to their communication systems and navigation controls. "Beginning Phase 1, Nina said, uploading a virus she had designed specifically for Zephyrian technology. "Let's see how they like fighting blind." Across the alien fleet, ships began reporting system failures. Navigation computers started giving false readings. Communication arrays went dead. Weapon targeting systems began firing at random coordinates. The perfect formation that had struck fear into hundreds of worlds suddenly dissolved into chaos. On the Eternal Victory, Zelgoth watched his fleet fall apart around him. Ships were colliding with each other as their navigation systems failed. Others were spinning out of control as their engines fired randomly. "How is this possible?" he shouted at his technical staff. "Our systems are unhackable." "Sir," replied his chief engineer, "someone has infiltrated our entire network. They're not just attacking us, they're studying our technology in real time and adapting to our countermeasures faster than we can implement them." Meanwhile, Dr. Carlos Martinez was having the time of his life in his laboratory aboard the research station Newton. Spread out before him were pieces of Zephyrian technology salvaged from the destroyed Silver Talon, and what he was discovering amazed him. "Amy, you need to see this," Carlos called to Dr. Amy Rodriguez as she entered his lab. "I've figured out how their shields work." Amy looked at the alien components scattered across Carlos's workbench. "Tell me you have good news." "Better than good," Carlos replied excitedly. "Their shield technology is designed to deflect energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles. But look at this." He pulled up a holographic display showing the shield's energy patterns. The shields operate on predictable frequencies and have a recharge cycle of exactly 4.7 seconds. "What does that mean for us?" Amy asked. "It means we can get through them," Carlos explained. "Not with big powerful weapons, but with lots of small attacks timed perfectly. Their shields can stop a battleship's main gun, but they can't handle a dozen mining charges going off at the exact moment the shield resets." Amy smiled for the first time in days. "Carlos, you beautiful genius. Get this information to every ship in the fleet immediately." Back in the main battle zone, Captain Ben Hughes was putting Carlos's discovery to the test. His ship Ranger led a squadron of modified fighters toward a Zephyrian heavy cruiser, the Iron Fist. Each fighter carried mining explosives and a timer synchronized to the enemy shield frequency. "Remember," Ben told his pilots over the radio, We hit them in waves exactly 4.7 seconds apart. First wave takes down the shields. Second wave hits the hull. Third wave finishes the job. The Iron Fist's crew watched in confusion as the tiny, human fighters approached. The ship's captain, Sub-Commander Hextar, laughed at what he saw as a pathetic attack. "Deploy point defense systems," he ordered. "Destroy these insects." But as the Zephyrian weapons opened fire, Ben's fighters scattered in all directions using evasive maneuvers that no civilized pilot would attempt. They flew through debris fields, used asteroids as cover, and executed turns that should have killed their pilots from the acceleration forces. "Now!" Ben shouted, and the first wave of fighters released their charges directly at the cruiser's shield generators. The explosions were small, barely scratching the powerful barriers, but they came at exactly the right moment. For 4.7 seconds, the Iron Fist was completely defenseless. The second wave struck the hull with devastating effect. The third wave penetrated deep into the ship's interior before detonating. The Iron Fist, a vessel that had conquered 12 worlds, broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Sub-Commander Hextar had just enough time to realize that the humans weren't running scared at all. They were hunting, and they were very, very good at it. Fleet Commander Zelgoth received the reports from across his fleet with growing horror. 12 ships destroyed, 15 more damaged, and the humans hadn't lost a single major vessel. They were fighting like nothing the Empire had ever encountered before. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through," Zelgoth ordered, dreading what he might hear. Admiral Steve Parker's face appeared on the screen, and his expression was cold as space itself. "Commander Zelgoth," Parker said, "this is your final warning. Leave our system now or we will destroy every ship in your fleet. We told you to flee. You should have listened." The transmission ended, leaving Zelgoth staring at a blank screen. For the first time in his long military career, he was facing an enemy that fought to win rather than to achieve glory. An enemy that used every advantage, no matter how dishonorable it might seem to civilized beings. The Zephyrian Empire was learning a hard lesson about the difference between conquest and survival. Emperor Nax then paced back and forth in his war room, his forearms shaking with rage as he read the latest reports from Fleet Commander Zelgoth. 43 Imperial ships destroyed, 67 more damaged, and the humans had lost only a handful of small vessels that weren't even proper warships. "This is impossible," the Emperor hissed to his advisors. "How can primitive mammals be defeating the finest fleet in the galaxy?" Lord Vexmar, his chief military advisor, studied the tactical reports with growing concern. "Your Majesty, the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered before. They use tactics that no civilized being would consider." "Explain," the Emperor demanded. "They sacrifice their own ships to destroy ours," Vexmar replied, his voice filled with disgust. "They attack our computer systems like common criminals. They hide among debris and strike from ambush like cowards. They show no honor, no dignity. They fight like wild animals." Emperor Nax then stopped pacing and turned to face his advisor. "Then we will remind them why the Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Send word to Zelgoth. He is authorized to use planet-killer weapons." Meanwhile, Captain Rick Thompson crouched in the maintenance shaft of the Zephyrian Command, ship Glorious Dawn, trying to stay quiet as alien footsteps passed overhead. Rick and his boarding team had used a captured alien shuttle to get inside the enemy vessel, pretending to be refugees seeking help. The Zephyrians, being a civilized species, had actually tried to rescue them. It was the last mistake the crew of the Glorious Dawn would ever make. "Charges are set," whispered Sergeant Tony Walsh through Rick's earpiece. "We've got explosives on the reactor core, the life support systems, and the main computer." "Copy that," Rick replied softly. "Team 3, what's your status?" "Weapons." "Control is ours," came the voice of Corporal Lisa Chen. "We've locked out their defensive systems and turned their own guns toward the rest of their fleet." Rick smiled grimly. The Zephyrians built beautiful ships with incredibly advanced technology, but they had one fatal flaw. They trusted their own systems completely. They had never faced an enemy that would board their vessels and turn their own weapons against them. All teams prepare for extraction, Rick ordered. We blow this ship in 60 seconds. But as Rick and his team made their way toward the shuttle bay, they encountered something that stopped them cold. A group of Zephyrian crew members, mostly young ones, huddled together in a corridor. They weren't armed. They weren't fighting. They were crying. Please, one of them said in broken English. We do not want to die. We have families, children. Rick stared at the aliens for a long moment. These weren't the proud warriors he had expected to find. They were just ordinary people who had been caught up in their empire's war of conquest. For a brief moment, Rick hesitated. Then he remembered the images from the Zephyrian ultimatum. The threat to destroy every human on Earth. The casual way they had discussed wiping out his entire species. You should have thought about that before you came to our system, Rick said coldly and kept walking. 3 minutes later, the glorious dawn erupted in a series of explosions that could be seen from 100 kilometers away. But more importantly, before it died, the ship's own weapons had fired into the Zephyrian formation, destroying 2 more vessels and damaging several others. Dr. Ellen Foster watched the battle from her laboratory on Europa, but she wasn't paying attention to the fighting. Instead, she was studying the biological data they had recovered from captured Zephyrian prisoners. What she was discovering changed everything they thought they knew about their enemies. Amy, you need to see this immediately, Ellen called to Dr. Amy Rodriguez over the communication system. I'm a little busy right now, Amy replied from her position aboard the command ship Defiance. We're in the middle of coordinating the largest space battle in human history. This can't wait, Ellen insisted. I've been analyzing Zephyrian biology, and I've figured out why they're so bad at adapting to our tactics. Amy paused in her work. Go ahead. They evolved on peaceful worlds, Ellen explained, pulling up genetic charts on her screen. Look at their DNA structure. No fight or flight response, no adrenaline system, no territorial instincts. They're a species that developed intelligence through cooperation, not competition. What does that mean for us? Amy asked. It means they literally cannot think the way we do, Ellen replied excitedly. When we're in danger, our brains release chemicals that help us think faster, fight harder, take bigger risks. When they're in danger, their minds shut down. They become paralyzed by fear because they've never had to deal with real predators before. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. Ellen, are you saying that every species in their empire is like this? As far as I can tell, yes. The Zephyrian empire consists entirely of prey species that evolved on safe worlds. They've been successful because they've never encountered real predators before. We're the first species they've met that evolved to hunt and kill. On the bridge of the Eternal, Victory Fleet Commander Zelgoth was learning exactly what Dr. Foster meant. His tactical officers were making increasingly panicked reports as human attacks grew more vicious and unpredictable. Sir, 3 more ships are reporting system intrusions, his communication officer announced. The humans have somehow taken control of the Pride of Stars and are using it to attack our own vessels. How is this possible? Zelgoth demanded. Our security systems are the best in the galaxy, Commander, his chief engineer replied with shaking hands. I think the humans are better than our systems. They adapt to our countermeasures faster than we can create them. It's like they're designed for this kind of warfare. Zelgoth turned to study the tactical display, watching as red dots representing Imperial ships winked out one by one. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like it. The humans fought with a creativity and viciousness that his people simply couldn't match. Sir, his sensor operator called out. New contact approaching. It's massive. On the main screen appeared the largest Zephyrian vessel ever built. The world's end was 5 kilometers long and carried weapons that could crack planets apart. It was the Empire's ultimate weapon, reserved for enemies that refused to surrender. Finally, Zelgoth breathed with relief. Now we'll show these mammals what real power looks like. But Major Sam Brooks had been waiting for this moment. Sam had volunteered to pilot a captured Zephyrian fighter, and he had spent the last 6 hours learning how their technology worked. It had taken him exactly 43 minutes to master systems that took Zephyrian pilots years to learn. "Control. This is Ghost Rider," Sam reported over his radio. "I'm beginning my approach on the big target." "Sam, that ship could destroy half our fleet," came the worried voice of Admiral Parker. "Are you sure about this?" "Sir, I've been studying their weapon systems," Sam replied, guiding his stolen fighter toward the massive dreadnought. "Their planet-killer weapons are designed to fire at stationary targets from long range. They're not expecting someone to fly right up to them and plant charges on the weapon itself." Sam's fighter was small enough that the World's End's massive guns couldn't track it, and he was flying a Zephyrian ship, so their identification systems didn't mark him as hostile. He landed in one of the dreadnought's many hangar bays and walked through the corridors like he belonged there. The Zephyrian crew members he passed paid him no attention. To them, he looked like just another pilot returning from patrol. They had no concept that an enemy might infiltrate their ship by pretending to be one of them. 20 minutes later, Sam had planted nuclear charges throughout the World's End's main weapon systems. As he made his way back to his fighter, he passed through the ship's command center and overheard something that made his blood run cold. "Prepare to fire on the third planet," the ship's captain was ordering. "We will show these humans what happens when prey thinks it can challenge predators." Sam keyed his radio. "Control, they're about to fire on Earth. I'm detonating charges now." "Sam, get out of there first," Admiral Parker shouted. "No time, sir," Sam replied calmly. "Tell my wife I love her." The explosions that followed turned the World's End into a brief new star in Earth's solar system. The ship that could have destroyed planets was reduced to scattered debris in a matter of seconds. Fleet Commander Zelgoth watched his ultimate weapon die and felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. Fear. Pure, primitive terror that made his hands shake and his thoughts scatter. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered, "what are we fighting?" Zelgoth stared at the expanding cloud of debris that had once been the Empire's most powerful weapon, destroyed by a single human who had sacrificed himself to save his world. "I don't know," he replied quietly, "but they're not like anything the galaxy has ever seen before." As if to prove his point, the human fleet began moving toward his position in a coordinated attack pattern that used every dirty trick they had learned. They were no longer just defending their home. They were hunting the hunters. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that in a galaxy full of prey species, they had finally encountered the apex predators. Emperor Nax then stood alone in his private chamber, staring out at the stars that had once seemed so welcoming. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire was losing a war. The reports from Earth's solar system grew worse. With each passing hour, half of his finest fleet was gone, destroyed by creatures that should have been easy prey. "Your Majesty," came the voice of his personal advisor, Lord Quintal, from the doorway. "The War Council is demanding answers. Some are even suggesting we negotiate with the humans." The Emperor turned around slowly, his 3 dark eyes filled with something his species had not felt in centuries. Genuine fear. "Negotiate?" he hissed. "With animals? We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not negotiate with lesser species." "But Your Majesty," Quintal said carefully, "these humans are not like the others. They fight with a savagery that our people cannot match. Perhaps we should consider—" "No!" the Emperor roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Send word to Fleet Commander Zelgoth. He is to use every weapon at his disposal. Poison gases, biological weapons, planet crackers. I don't care what it takes. These humans must be destroyed before other species learn that the Empire can be defeated." Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, Commander Tony Walsh led a pack of human fighters through the wreckage of what had once been the pride of the Zephyrian fleet. His mission was simple but deadly. Hunt down every remaining alien ship and destroy them before they could escape to tell their empire what had happened here. "Ghost Squadron, this is Alpha Leader," Tony spoke into his radio. "I've got 3 Zephyrian cruisers trying to reach the jump point. We can't let them get away." "Copy that, Alpha Leader," came the reply from Lieutenant Kelly Price. "My team will take the left flank. Let's show them how Earth wolves hunt." The human fighters moved like a pack of predators closing in on wounded prey. They had learned to work together in ways that the individualistic Zephyrians could never understand. Each pilot knew exactly where the others would be, what they would do, how they would react to changing situations. The Zephyrian ships were faster and more heavily armed, but they were also predictable. They followed standard Imperial doctrine, moving in straight lines and firing according to textbook procedures. The humans moved like smoke, impossible to pin down, striking from unexpected angles before vanishing into the debris fields. Target 1 is down, Kelly reported as her missiles found their mark on a Zephyrian cruiser. Moving to assist Alpha Team with Target 2, Dr. Kate Murphy worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the space station Hope, trying to understand the new, alien weapons that the Empire had started using. The Zephyrians had released some kind of biological agent that was supposed to kill all life on Earth, but something strange was happening. The virus is dying, Kate announced to her research team. It's actually breaking down in Earth's atmosphere. How is that possible? Asked her assistant, Dr. Brian Clark. Their biological weapons have destroyed entire worlds before. Kate pulled up a genetic analysis on her screen. Because those worlds were inhabited by species like the Zephyrians. Look at this. The virus is designed to attack peaceful herbivore genetics. It literally doesn't know what to do with human DNA. Brian stared at the data in amazement. You mean their biological weapons can't hurt us because we evolved differently? Exactly, Kate replied. We're omnivores who evolved from predators. Our immune systems are designed to fight off diseases from eating other animals. Their virus was made to kill peaceful plant eaters who never had to develop strong disease resistance. On the bridge of the Eternal Victory, Fleet Commander Zelgoth received Kate's analysis as a captured transmission, and the implications terrified him. Not only were the humans immune to their biological weapons, but they were now studying Zephyrian science and improving it. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the humans are using our own virus against us. They've modified it somehow. It's spreading through our fleet and killing our crews. Zelgoth felt his knees go weak. The humans had taken a weapon designed to destroy them and turned it into something that killed Zephyrians instead. In less than 6 hours, they had accomplished something his people's best scientists had never even attempted. How many ships have we lost to the modified virus, he asked. 17, sir, and the number is growing. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship Defiance, watching as the last of the Zephyrian fleet tried desperately to escape Earth's solar system. Around him, his crew worked with the efficiency of a machine, coordinating attacks with dozens of other human vessels. Admiral Parker, Jake called over the communication system. The alien flagship is making a run for the jump point. Should we let them go? Negative, came Parker's immediate reply. We can't let them report back to their empire. End this, Jake. Jake nodded to his weapons officer. You heard the Admiral. Take out their engines first. I want to board that ship. The Defiance and 3 other human vessels converged on the Eternal Victory like sharks smelling blood in the water. The Zephyrian flagship was massive and heavily armed, but its crew was demoralized and panicking. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such relentless determination. Boarding pods away, Jake announced as his ship latched onto the alien vessel's hull. Remember, we need prisoners. The Admiral wants to know everything about their empire. The boarding action was swift and brutal. Human Marines moved through the Zephyrian ship like they owned it, using knowledge gained from previous captures to disable security systems and bypass defenses. The alien crew, trained for formal battles between fleets, had no idea how to fight hand-to-hand combat in their own corridors. Fleet Commander Zelgoth found himself surrounded by human soldiers in his own command center. The leader, a scarred man with cold eyes, pointed a weapon at his head. I'm Captain Morrison, the human said calmly. You're going to tell me everything about your empire, fleet positions, weapon capabilities, political structure, everything. I will never betray the empire, Zelgoth replied, trying to sound brave despite the fear in his voice. Jake smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. That's what the last 3 commanders said. Dr. Rodriguez here has some very interesting questions about Zephyrian brain chemistry. Apparently, your species is very susceptible to certain chemical compounds that make you tell the truth. Dr. Amy Rodriguez stepped forward with a medical device that looked frighteningly advanced. "This won't hurt," she said to Zelgoth. "Much." 3 hours later, Jake had everything he needed to know about the Zephyrian Empire. Ship designs, fleet locations, political weaknesses, military doctrines. Everything that Earth would need to take the war to the aliens' home systems. "Send this information to Admiral Parker immediately," Jake ordered, "and prepare the fleet for departure." "Sir?" his first officer asked. "Where are we going?" Jake looked out at the stars beyond Earth's solar system, thinking about the 300 worlds that the Zephyrian Empire had conquered over the centuries. Billions of innocent beings who had been forced to surrender to alien rule simply because they didn't know how to fight back. "We're going hunting," Jake said quietly. "The Empire wanted a war with humanity. Now they're going to get one." Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian homeworld, Emperor Nax then received the last transmission from Fleet Commander Zelgoth before the human attack. The message was brief and filled with static, but the words came through clearly. "Your Majesty, the fleet is lost. The humans are coming. They have our ship designs, our navigation charts, our military codes. My Emperor, they are not just defending their world anymore. They are hunting us." The transmission ended in silence, leaving the Emperor staring at a blank screen. For 10,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had spread across the galaxy by offering other species a simple choice: surrender or die. Now, for the first time, they faced a species that offered them the same choice. "Summon the War Council," the Emperor ordered his trembling advisors. "We must prepare our defenses." But as he spoke those words, Emperor Nax then realized that the Zephyrian Empire had never actually had to defend anything before. They had always been the attackers, the conquerors, the ones who came from space to demand surrender. Now they were about to learn what it felt like to be on the other side of that equation. And they were about to discover that humans were very, very good at hunting prey that tried to run. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the captured Zephyrian dreadnought Eternal Victory, now renamed Liberation. Around him, human engineers had replaced alien technology with Earth systems, creating a hybrid warship that was more powerful than anything either species had built alone. "Admiral," reported Captain Ben Hughes from the navigation station, "we're receiving surrender signals from the Kepler system. That makes 47 worlds that have broken free from Imperial control." Jake nodded, studying the tactical display that showed human fleets spread across a quarter of the galaxy. In 6 months, they had done what no species had accomplished in 10,000 years. They had shattered the Zephyrian Empire. "Any word from the diplomatic mission to the Zephyrian homeworld?" Jake asked. "Ambassador Price reports that Emperor Nax then has agreed to the final terms," came the reply from his communication officer. "Complete withdrawal from 100 star systems, full technology transfer, and acceptance of human oversight for all military operations." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, now serving as Jake's chief science advisor, looked up from her analysis station. "Jake, you should see this. We've been cataloging all the species that were under Zephyrian rule. There are over 2,000 different civilizations that have been living under Imperial control for centuries." "What's their status?" Jake asked. "Most of them don't even remember how to govern themselves," Amy replied sadly. "The Empire controlled every aspect of their lives for so long that they're terrified of independence. They're actually asking us to take over protection duties." Jake frowned. When humanity had started this war, they had only wanted to protect Earth. They had never intended to become the new power in the galaxy. But as they liberated world after world, they kept finding species that needed help, protection, guidance. "Set up the meeting with the Colonial Council," Jake ordered. "We need to figure out what we're going to do with all these worlds." On the planet Zentara Prime, former Zephyrian colony world, Captain Lisa Grant walked through streets filled with celebrating aliens. The local population, a peaceful species called the Vortaki, had been enslaved by the Empire for over 800 years. Now they were free, and they didn't know what to do with that freedom. "Captain Grant," said Elder Nimtel, the leader of the Vortaki people, "our council has made a decision. We wish to request protection from the Terran Federation." Lisa looked at the elderly alien with his large, gentle eyes and soft features. The Vortaki were herbivores who had never developed weapons more advanced than farming tools. Without protection, they would be conquered again within a year by any aggressive species that found them. "Elder Nimtel," Lisa said carefully, "the Terran Federation doesn't want to rule other species. We want you to be free." "But Captain," the elder replied, "we have studied your people since you liberated our world. You are predators, yes, but you are also protectors. You fight not to conquer, but to defend those who cannot defend themselves. This is why we trust you." Lisa realized that humanity had stumbled into something they had never expected. They had become the guardians of the galaxy, not through conquest, but through the simple act of being willing to fight for others. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Sarah Kim met with the newly formed Galactic Council in the rebuilt United Nations building. Representatives from dozens of former imperial worlds sat around a circular table, working together to create a new form of government for their corner of the galaxy. "The Terran proposal is simple," President Kim explained to the assembled delegates. "Each world governs itself according to its own culture and values. The Terran Defense Force provides protection against external threats. In exchange, all member worlds share technology and resources for mutual benefit." Ambassador Kethvor, the former Zephyrian diplomat who had delivered the original ultimatum to humanity, now served as a liaison between his people and the new government. The experience of being conquered by humans had changed him in ways he was still trying to understand. "President Kim," Kethvor said, "many of my people still do not understand how this arrangement benefits humanity. You have the strongest military in the galaxy. You could simply take what you want from any world. Why do you choose cooperation instead?" Sarah smiled at the question. "Ambassador, that's the difference between predators and parasites. Parasites take everything until their host dies. Predators maintain the health of their environment because they depend on it for survival. Humanity learned long ago that a strong ecosystem benefits everyone." Dr. Kate Murphy, now director of the Galactic Research Consortium, presented her latest findings to the Council. "We've been studying the technology from all member worlds," she explained. "By combining human adaptability with Zephyrian energy, systems, Vortaki agricultural science, and Kalari mathematics, we've made advances that would have taken each species centuries to achieve alone." "What kind of advances?" asked Representative Zulmar from the Kalari worlds. "We've developed faster-than-light communication that works across the entire galaxy," Kate replied excitedly. "Medical technology that can cure diseases that have plagued dozens of species for millennia. Terraforming systems that can make dead worlds habitable in decades instead of centuries." But the most important change was happening on the frontier worlds, where human exploration teams were making contact with species that had never known about the galactic community. Captain Tony Walsh led one such mission to a system at the edge of known space. "Contact established with the local population," Tony reported to Admiral Morrison. "They call themselves the Hilani, peaceful traders who have been hiding from the Empire for the last 1,000 years. "What's their status?" Jake asked over the communication link. "They're amazed that the Empire is gone," Tony replied. "But they're also scared. Apparently there are other aggressive species out there, ones that the Empire never conquered. The Hilani have been dealing with raids and attacks for centuries." Jake felt a familiar feeling stir in his chest, the same protective instinct that had driven humanity to fight the Zephyrians in the first place. "Tony, extend an invitation to join the Federation and find out everything they know about these raiders." 3 years after the war began, Ambassador Janet Price stood before the assembled leaders of the Terran Federation in the new capital city on the neutral world of Haven. Around her sat representatives of over 300 worlds, all working together to build something the galaxy had never seen before. "The Federation now encompasses 40% of known space," Janet reported. "We have eliminated slavery on over 200 worlds, established trade routes that benefit all member species and created the first truly democratic government in galactic history. But our work is not finished, she continued. There are still aggressive species out there, still worlds that need protection, still civilizations that have never known freedom. As long as there are predators who hunt the innocent, humanity will stand ready to hunt the predators. Admiral Morrison, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Terran Forces, stood to address the assembly. 3 years ago, the Zephyrian Empire gave humanity a choice: surrender or face annihilation. We chose a third option. We chose to fight back. He paused, looking around at the hundreds of different species represented in the chamber. Today, we offer that same choice to every aggressive species in the galaxy. Leave the peaceful worlds alone or face the consequences. Our warning is still clear: flee or discover why predators learn to reach for the stars. In a private chamber beneath the assembly hall, Lord Kethver met with Dr. Amy Rodriguez to discuss the future of galactic civilization. The former Imperial ambassador had become one of humanity's most trusted allies, helping to bridge the gap between predator and prey species. Dr. Rodriguez, Kethver said quietly, "My people have a question that we have never dared to ask. What happens when humanity becomes bored with protecting others? What happens when your predator instincts turn toward conquest instead of defense?" Amy looked at her alien friend and smiled. "Kethver, that's why we built the Federation the way we did. Power shared is power that can't be abused. Every major decision requires approval from member worlds. Every human commander has alien advisors. Every fleet has mixed crews." "But what if that is not enough?" Kethver persisted. Amy's expression grew serious. "Then you do what prey species have always done when predators become dangerous. You find better predators to hunt them. The galaxy is a big place, Kethver. Humanity may be the apex predator in this region, but we're not arrogant enough to think we're the most dangerous thing out there." As if summoned by her words, an alarm began sounding throughout the building. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the communication system with urgent news. "All senior staff to the command center immediately. We've received a distress signal from the Outer Rim. Unknown hostile forces are attacking Federation worlds. Preliminary reports suggest technology more advanced than anything we've encountered before." Kethver looked at Amy with something that might have been relief in his alien features. "It seems the galaxy is about to remind humanity that even apex predators can become prey."